Welcome to the Retirement Guy Podcast with Gary Alden from the Kingwood Investment Group. In this podcast, we educate people in or near retirement so they can make informed decisions and bridge the confidence gap. Learn how to mitigate risk in retirement so you don't run out of money before you run out of you. Join Gary Alden and explore strategies on how to live a stress-free retirement.
Hello and welcome to the Retirement Guy with Gary Alden from Kingwood Investment Group. Today we're going to be talking about the Secure Act, and Gary has a ton of great information for us. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good morning, Eric. We are terrific, but as usual, we may get better.
We may get better. The day goes on. We're hoping to, right?
Yeah, hopefully they are talking about maybe a tropical storm, 10 inches of rain coming toward Houston later this week. We don't need any more rain.
Yeah, no, I don't know many people in the country that do. We've been getting pretty soaked up here too. So, well, the Secure Act, that's a big topic right now, and I appreciate you bringing it to the audience. What are we covering today with the Secure Act?
Well, we're going to go through 7 key parts of the act. There's a lot more to it, but a lot of it would be getting into the weeds. But before we get going, I've got some trivia questions for you today, Eric.
All right, let's do this.
Well, these all relate to presidents, and you probably know all these because you're so smart. The first one is probably the easiest one. Who was the first president to hold a televised press conference? Number 2, who was the first president to call the place the president lives the White House? Who was the shortest and also the lightest president in the history of the United States? Happened to be the same person, shortest and lightest. And what president received his nomination for the presidency late because he always refused any mail coming to him that was postage due? And then the last one, the term okay is derived from a slogan based on a U.S. president. So that's how we got the word okay. And it's all based on a U.S. president.
Well, I'm going to go with the audience here and wait till the end.
Okay. We'll let you wait.
All right.
I actually only knew one of the 5. I knew the first one, the first president to hold a televised press conference. That one I knew. So anyway, so let's talk about the Secure Act. And the Secure Act is an acronym, and only Congress could come up with this stuff. Secure stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement Act.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to say the Secure Act. Now, this passed just recently in May in the House of Representatives, 417 to 3. And it is expected to be passed on voice vote in the Senate. However, there's one roadblock, and that's Senator Ted Cruz from Texas. And he is holding out because the House version drops a provision in 529 plans. 529 plans are for college education. And the House version drops the provision that allows 529 plans to pay for homeschooling. So he wants that back in the bill. He's kind of holding out, but he's one of 100. He may not be able to hold out. And so we'll see what happens. So again, I want to caution everybody listening that this has not passed, and the details could change because, there's a House version, there's a Senate version, and it has to come together in a compromise committee and work out the details before it passes. But there is overwhelming support in both sides of Congress, which means it's probably going to get passed in some form. So what we're going to talk about today is some of the key changes in the bill. And before you and I started recording, I mentioned to you, I'd already planned this podcast for today. And in today's Wall Street Journal, they have about a half a page article on this. The headline of their article is Congress is coming for your IRA. Like grave robbers opening King Tut's tomb, Congress can't wait to get its hands on America's retirement account assets. So some of that's true. Some of it's not necessarily true. But we're going to go into the details here, and this is some good stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like Wall Street Journal is trying to do a little bit of a clickbait with that title.
Maybe a little bit.
Just a little bit.
So the first big change on this, and when I saw this several months ago, I went, holy crap, what a big change, and it really is. Right now, when you turn 70 and a half, you have to do what's called an RMD, a required minimum distribution from your IRA accounts. And it starts out at about 3.65%. So I can do the math in my head. So let's just say you've got $1 million in your IRA or 401k plan, and you turn 70 and a half, the government says you've got to take out 3.65 of that, or roughly $36,000. You have to withdraw from the account, which means you now owe taxes on that money. Well, Congress is raising the age up to 72. That means they're having to wait another 18 months to tax your money. And when I first saw that, I went, wait a second. If they're going to wait 18 months for revenue, where are they making up the loss of revenue? And they're making it up, Eric, on your kids and my kids. There's a key provision in the law that's been around there forever, and it's a planning strategy that lots of parents have. I have this plan. You may have this plan, and I'll bet you a lot of our listeners have the same plan, is that when I pass away, I can leave my IRA account to my children. And then under current law, they can stretch out the tax benefits of that IRA over their entire actuarial lifespan. That is a tremendous, tremendous benefit. So you could inherit 500,000, million, whatever, and then stretch out taking money out of that over their lifetime. So it means you could really, really reduce the taxation. Well, under the new law, you would be forced under the House version to take all the money out within 10 years. Now think about it. A lot of, quote, kids, when they inherit this, they're still going to be working.
Yeah.
So let's just say Bob inherits $1 million from his parents, and he has to take out 100, say if he takes it at equal distributions, 100,000 a year per year over 10 years. Let's say he's making 100,000 in his job.
Yeah.
Then he has another 100,000 coming in from the government that he's forced to take out. He's now going to be taxed at $200,000 versus if he inherited that money in a stretch IRA and got that and had that money be able to stretch over his whole lifespan, he's going to pay reduced taxes because a majority of that money is probably going to come out when he's retired and in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah, that's wow.
The other thing, and I hadn't thought about this, I think I read this article in Forbes, and they were talking about, hey, let's say you're in your 40s, mom and dad pass away, you inherit this nice big IRA. You're forced to take the money out just about the same time your kids are going off to college. Now you're making so much money, you don't qualify for any financial aid. And this is what the Wall Street Journal article was also talking about. Hey, this is really going to affect the middle class United States paying a lot more taxes, paying more taxes just on the IRA you inherit while you're still working. And then also it's going to affect your kids' ability to get financial aid to go to college.
Okay. So Garrett, let me ask you a question on that real quick. Let's say, heaven forbid, your parents pass away and you're in, like you said, you're in your 40s and your oldest is, let's say 13 years old. You've got roughly 5 years before they are going to go to college. You said that you have to take it within 10 years. Can you take that money within the first 3 years?
Oh, sure. You could take it all out at one lump sum.
Okay. So that would be a lot of planning. So if you're listening to this and you're having those same thoughts, you've got to talk to a professional about that. But I was just thinking, if you could take it over the first 3 years, that gives you 2 more years after that where your pay would be back down to your normal, quote unquote, normal salary without having that influx of cash to kind of reset where what your kids can get for financial aid and things like that for college.
Yep, exactly.
That might be okay, but boy, there's not going to be a lot of people in that category, but still.
Yeah, it is going to take, and you brought up a real good point. I think the Wall Street Journal article even alluded to that too, that a lot of the planning and everything everybody's been doing all these years is now going to get turned upside down.
Exactly.
And now there's all a new set of planning. So again, we're going to have to wait and see what really comes out. But this is expected to be passed and go to the president's desk next month in August.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens. On the RMD change, from 70 to 72, another thing they're changing in the law is that right now, once you are 70 and a half, let's say you're still working at 70 and a half. At 70 and a half, you can still contribute money to your 401k plan at work. However, you cannot contribute money to an IRA account. Under the new law, they get rid of that stipulation. So if you are still working at 70 and a half, you will now be able to put money into an IRA account. Well, right now you cannot.
Got it.
So that's going to let people save some more money out there. Another thing they have in the law is 401k plan options for small businesses. And under the new law, small businesses that are, say, similar. So let's say you're a real estate company. You could band together with other real estate companies and set up a 401k plan.
That sounds good.
And right now, maybe it's cost prohibitive and it is cost prohibitive for a lot of small businesses to set up 401k plans. But if you could band together with other companies in a similar line of business, then you could offer a group 401k plan and spread the cost out over multiple businesses, which would cut the cost.
Do you know what the parameters of that are? I mean, do you have to have a certain amount of income for each business or a certain amount of number of businesses?
I haven't seen. All I've seen is generality so far. I'm sure what you're talking about, they're going to outline.
I'm sure.
But also there's another neat thing in there right now. A small business, if they start a new, say, 401k plan, they get a $500 tax credit. Under the Secure Act, the credit could increase to as much as $5,000.
Oh, wow. That's a big increase.
That's a huge increase. So again, they're trying to make an incentive for businesses to open 401k plans. I think that is huge.
That's good.
That's a neat thing. So some of the stuff in here, is good. Now, we talked about that the House version says that, no more stretch IRAs and you've got to take all the money out in 10 years. The Senate version is a little bit different. If you are inheriting an IRA less than $100,000, you could still do the old inherited IRA and stretch over your lifetime, which is good. But the flip side of that is the Senate version says if you inherit an IRA of $400,000 or more, you've got to take all the money out within 5 years.
Oh my gosh, really?
So they really want the money. Now, again, that's the Senate version. You've got the House version. They're going to have to work it out in compromise committee, which one becomes law. But there is a difference of opinion, obviously, in some of the provisions of the bill.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then one of the other neat things, because a lot of companies do this. My daughter-in-law used to work for a company that did this. They made sure that she worked less than 1,000 hours a year so that she could not get any benefits from the company. Under the new law, long-term part-time employees, you would have to offer them retirement benefits. In other words, join the 401k plan. Mm-hmm. And to qualify, all you got to do is work at least 500 hours a year, but no more than 1,000 hours a year for at least 3 consecutive years for that company. And they've got to let you join the 401k plan.
Good. I mean, I think that's good for the worker. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's just good benefit for the worker.
Yeah, I get a little tired of hearing about companies that will keep their employees part-time, hovering at certain hours and doing that so they can't get the health benefits or they can't get, the retirement benefits, things like that. So at least it's nice to hear that somebody's looking out for them now a little bit more.
You're exactly right. Now, one of the provisions that is getting a lot of press is that 401k plans would be told that they have to, mandatory, add an annuity option for their employees. Now, the question is, what kind of annuity? There's all kinds of different annuities. There's the annuities that get a lot of bad press, which is variable annuities, because as a rule, most variable annuities have a lot of high fees. And so you've got to overcome those fees before you start making any money for yourself. So it's a question on, one, it's a mandatory that are going to have to offer annuities. What I have not seen, and I've read a whole bunch of stuff on the internet, and I haven't seen anything that says if a company is going to be forced to offer a certain type of annuity, or if the 401k plan, or if the 401k plan is going to have an option in what type of annuities that they offer. Yeah. Because there's a lot of difference between fixed annuities, which most fixed annuities don't have any fees at all, versus variable annuities, which are notorious for high fees. But everything I've read in the law on the annuity options, it's going to be mandatory. If you have a 401k plan, there has to be an annuity option in the plan. Now, there's great benefits on annuities because they can give you a guaranteed lifetime income, et cetera, depending on the annuity. But like in anything, there's devil in the details.
Yeah. And you and I were talking before the podcast started, Gary, and I had heard this before. And my biggest concern for those that are listening is that when I was very, very young, I started my first 401k, and I was just young, didn't know anything. And I know that there was a representative, I'm using air quotes, a representative from a company that was presenting it to our company, talking about how to sign up for the 401k. It was that time of year, and we were all, the new people were in the room. And I know that they would answer any questions that we had, but I didn't even know what to ask, right? I didn't know what to ask. And so the whole annuity option in a 401k, they may just say, hey, this is a good option. It'll, guaranteed income for life. And, oh, wow, that sounds good. Sign me up. But I really don't know the details. So how do you think that people should approach this if they're starting a new job, or if they're, looking at a 401k plan that they have to sign up for? How do they get the right information on whether the annuity that they're offering specifically is good?
Well, that's when people like myself, a good financial advisor, I would go into any annuity product, whether it's offered by, because the one in your 401k plan, hey, it might be a great annuity. It might be a crappy annuity.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like anything in life, there's good, bad, and the ugly. And there are some great annuities out there. And then there's some annuities that I look at some of these things that people have, already bought. They've already got them on the books. And, I've got to hold my nose at some of these things because they just stink to high heaven. They are not to the benefit of the buyer. They were to the benefit of the insurance company or the guy that sold the annuity to the person.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these things, just like I didn't realize this till I went to meet him 3 weeks ago here in Houston area, and it was all about annuities. And we bought some new software that lets us analyze annuities. And there's over 430 variable annuity and fixed index annuities being offered in the United States now. And then within those annuities, lots of them have optional riders, which means there's even more versions of the same annuity, depending on whether you add or subtract riders on them. So it is very complicated. Remember, when you do an annuity, it's a contract between you and that annuity company. And once you sign on the dotted line, that contract is in force, whether you understood that annuity or not.
Mm.
And a lot of people just plain don't understand what they have. And I ask people, and part of this, I just want to see what they understand. When I do say an annuity and somebody has an annuity, I said, what is this? And that's XX, annuity. I says, what's it do? Why did you buy that?
Mm-hmm.
And usually I get a kind of a blank look.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get kind of a sort of a right answer, but sometimes I just get plain wrong answer. They just really do not understand what it is. And many times I think they think I'm trying to poke holes in their investment. And shoot, we'll just pick up the phone and call the annuity company. And I've got a little cheat sheet of questions that I ask when I call annuity companies so we can get it right from the horse's mouth, what this annuity does or does not do for you.
Got it.
So again, it is a major change since it is going to, again, if they don't change the rules, it is going to be a mandatory that every 401k plan in the country have some type of an annuity as an option. But again, if this does come to pass, again, get with your financial advisor and find out exactly what that annuity, how it really works. And is it going to fit your situation? Because there's different annuities we use for, just like a couple I had here in my office yesterday, they're right at 50 years old. We would not use an annuity option, the same annuity option for a 50-year-old that I would be using for a 65-year-old. Totally different strategy and different even brand name that we might use if it worked. Again, every situation annuity, does it work in your plan? Does it fit your situation? If it doesn't fit, you don't do it. If it does fit, then you want to consider your options.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, we got off on a little tangent there, but hey, it is a key part of the new act. And, this is the most significant changes. And by the way, we're just talking about seven or eight key changes here today. There are dozens of changes in the law. These are just the main things in the law. And then there's a whole bunch of things that are kind of out there in the weeds.
Yeah. Wow.
But one of the last things on here, we already talked about 529 plans a few minutes ago, that under the current rules, you can actually use money for homeschooling.
Yes.
And under the new bill, that would be taken out. But a couple of things they are adding to 529 plans. One is it would help pay for an apprenticeship.
Oh.
Again, 529 plans would be expanded to pay for expenses related to an apprenticeship, I guess. So I guess if you wanted to go be a plumber or whatever, and you want to be an apprentice plumber or electrician or something, which I think is great because we do have a shortage in the United States
Absolutely.
of skilled people in the trades. And then the other thing, it would allow you to take money out of a 529 plan to pay back as much as $10,000 in student loans.
Oh,
now, again, that's not a huge amount of money because most student loans are a lot more than that, but at least it would be tax advantage. You could take that $10,000 out of a 529 plan, not pay any taxes on the money, and help pay down your student loan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are, as you can tell, Eric, there are some neat things in this that are going to be good in general for a lot of people. And then there's some things that we've talked about that are not going to be good. And one of the articles I saw, and I hadn't thought about this, let's just say that the new law passes and now you start taking money out at age 72. And the article says, well, what if you live to 89? And it was using a hypothetical $500,000 portfolio growing at 4%. And what it was alluding to is when you take money out of your RMD and you're forced at 72 to take that money out, some of that money is going to go to taxes, but then the balance, what most people do is they reinvest it. But now it's reinvested outside of the 401k plan, just in your brokerage account. You're buying a mutual fund or stock. So what the article was alluding to, if you lived to age 89, $500,000 portfolio growing at 4%, at age 89, you would have roughly $15,000 or $16,000 less in the account because you had less time for it to grow. And remember, when someone passes away and you inherit a brokerage account, you get a step up in basis. So you actually, since you have less assets, you have less money to step up in basis. In effect, you have a smaller inheritance and you have less of a tax benefit.
Got it.
And then more money is over in the IRA account, in theory, which means the government's going to force you to take it out over 5 years or 10 years, depending on which person passes it, and causing you to pay more taxes. So, you know, and these are the things that just people have thought about so far. Once the bill passes and people start digging around, people are going to start thinking about different things and how it affects your situation. And I'll bet you there's some good things that people haven't even thought about that are going to pop up. But then I'll also bet you there's some negative things that people have not thought about yet that's also going to pop up.
Yeah, it's like ripples in a pond.
Yeah, there you go. Because no good deed goes unpunished. So again, the Forbes article was talking about, hey, this is great, and then the Wall Street Journal article again is headlined, Congress is coming for your IRA. And really, in part of it, like we've already talked about this morning, they are coming for your IRA, and the government's going to see more. Think about it. They're going to, instead of stretching that money out of your whole lifetime, not only are they going to get it quicker over 5 years or 10 years, you're probably going to be paying at a higher tax rate. And Congress is not only going to get money sooner, they're going to be able to tax even more of the money because you're going to be in a higher tax bracket.
Yep, exactly.
Those crooks.
Yeah.
So anyway, I need to talk to my congressman. We all need to talk to our congressman.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to point out something, Gary. If you're listening to this podcast right now, this is exactly what Gary loves to do. He does a ton of research. He keeps up on these types of situations. The Secure Act is just one of many things that Gary studies and makes sure that himself and his team is up on. So the nice thing is that we don't have to. I don't have to go and research the Secure Act. I love talking to Gary about this because he is a wealth of information. If you have questions about what he's covered so far and also questions about those other, couple dozen things that are being changed in the Secure Act, you need to talk to a professional. I'm, of course, going to suggest Gary because he does the research and I know him and I trust him. However, you can choose whoever you want. Go to an advisor that you trust or that you have currently and say, hey, look, I have some questions about the Secure Act and what's coming up. So please make a point to do that because the more you know, the better off you're going to be. And you're not going to be surprised. Your planning is probably going to have to change if this passes. So please make time to reach out and talk to somebody. And Gary, if they choose to reach out to talk to you, how do they get a hold of you?
Two ways. Just give us a call on the phone, 281-359-7900, 281-359-7900, or go to our website. And there's a place on the website you can click in and ask a question or ask for you to give us a call. Real easy.
Nice.
Oh, and we have trivia questions.
Teach me about the presidents, Gary.
Okay. The only one that I knew was the first one. The first president to hold a televised press conference was John F. Kennedy.
Oh,
JFK.
that surprises
And
me.
you talk about somebody who was made for a press conference. Very good looking president, gift the gab, presented himself well. Just JFK was the first guy to do a televised press conference. Then the first president to call the place he lived the White House. Before then, it was always called the Executive Mansion or the President's House. Theodore Roosevelt started calling it the White House, and it stuck. And we call it the White House ever since. And then James Madison, holy crap, this guy must have been he was a small person. James Madison was the shortest and lightest president on record. He was 5'4", and they said he weighed about 100 pounds.
Whoa, wow.
Sounds like you could just huff and puff and blow him down.
Yeah, that's surprising. I didn't know that. 100 pounds. Jeez.
Today I don't think you could elect a 5'4" president.
No, yeah, that would be difficult. I think I've bought a burrito about the same weight as that guy.
Yeah, there you go. And the same length.
Yeah, probably.
There you go. Now, I thought this was interesting when I did research for trivia. Zachary Taylor, remember Zach?
Yeah.
Zachary Taylor received his nomination for the presidency by mail, but he got it late because he refused all postage due correspondence.
Well, he should have known it came from the government, right?
Yeah, it came from the government. Hey, he should have paid the nickel or whatever it was or 2 cents back then.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the term okay. That is just kind of universal. You go to any country in the world and they use all of a sudden they're saying okay. They may be speaking Pakistani, but they're going to lapse into okay. But the term okay is credited to Martin Van Buren.
Oh, wow.
Who was raised in Kinderhook, New York. And once I read this, I kind of vaguely remembered reading this one time. But he was raised in Kinderhook, New York. And after he went into politics, Van Buren became known as Old Kinderhook. And then people shortened that to OK. And then people started referring to the president, Van Buren, as OK. And then the word OK just became a common term in usage. So you now know more about OK than you really wanted to know.
Yeah. I thought it was just Oklahoma, something about Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's okay. I think they stole that.
Yeah, probably. All right, Gary, thank you so much for your time today. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that's about it. But stay tuned. We will, once the Secure Act becomes final, because it is become final, all of our clients, we will get a white paper out to all of our clients and let everybody know what's going on once the law is actually passed.
Absolutely. All right. And if people want to get a hold of that, I'm sure they can call in and email in and talk to you about it.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much again. And thank you all for listening to the Retirement Guy podcast with Gary Alden. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Gary comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. It also makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. I don't know anybody out there that doesn't need to hear about the Secure Act. It's new. It's not passed yet completely, but it looks like it might. So people need to be aware of it. So share this podcast with them. Again, thanks for listening today. For everyone at Kingwood Investment Group, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Retirement Guy podcast. Click the subscription button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kingwood Investment Group. The content has been made available for information and education purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions that you may have regarding your investment planning. Kingwood Investment Group is independent of Next Financial Group, Inc. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Next Financial Group, Inc., member FINRA/SIPC.